Hello friends and welcome to this session for GATE and ESE Electrical Engineering. My friend, this session is going to be one of the most awesome session and you are going to really learn something very new and something that will help you in the exam. In the exam for GATE, may it be 2021 or it may be 2022. Now, before we start the lecture, my friend, let me introduce you myself. My name is Ankit Goyal. I got AIR 1 in GATE 2014 and GATE 2018. And my friend, I was also awarded the President of India Gold Medal by the President himself in the year 2013 when I graduated from IIT Indore. Presently, I am working as a director at an academy for GATE department, and that is why constantly I am able to bring new and more initiatives for you. Because an academy is not an institute. An academy is not a coaching. An academy is more of a revolution. An academy is more of a feeling. An academy has everything right that is wrong with every other coaching institute in the country. The name An Academy, my friend, has been comprised of two words, un and academy. That means it has everything that is not there in an academy. So an academy cares about the student in the best way possible. It cares about the student most than or more than any other person can. All the initiatives are centered on the student. That is, they are always working towards the student welfare. And that is why, my friend, you are watching this course on power system. That is why, my friend, you are watching this course on power system free of cost on our YouTube channel. So my friend, if you are visiting this channel for the first time, make sure that you have subscribed, because we have electrical machine, power electronics, power system, communication system, EMT, EDC, network, signal, control, digital, everything is here on this channel, that too free of cost, my friend. But what has An Academy done? An Academy has brought a revolution in the country where they are providing the most affordable education, and that too free of that too at the most affordable price, as well as free of cost on YouTube. So my friend, if you want to be a part of the revolution that An Academy has created by means of the courses that are running on An Academy, where they are bringing you the best ever educators of the country on a single platform. That is, you, my friend, can be able to learn from India's top educator at the cheapest or at the most affordable prices possible. At the most affordable prices possible. Now, my friend, I'm talking to you. You can dare to dream. You can dare to enter a PSU. You can dare to dream about MTech from an IIT. Why? Because An Academy has made it possible. An Academy has done everything that is required to get the best rank in GATE examination. So my friend, if you want to join An Academy, make sure that you use the code Ankit ESE, because the door to An Academy opens with this code, and this directly makes me your mentor so that I can guide you at each and every step regarding your GATE preparation. And not only this, you will also get 10% discount on your subscription. Now, what does An Academy bring for you? Not only the live classes. The live classes are the best part of An Academy, where you can interact with the educator, ask your doubt, and make sure that you understand each and every concept and then only exit the class. But other than that, you get dedicated doubt session, where you can post a pic of a question and ask any doubt, any number of doubts. Then you have weekly quizzes. Every Sunday we test how much you have understood. Then there are daily practice paper which we provide you for practice. Then there are practice questions from An Academy. Then there are test series from An Academy. Then there is crash course, where we will boost your rank in the last few months. There is rank improvement batch for the students who have already done well in the GATE examination. Now, my friend, all of this just with one subscription fees, where you don't have to pay anything again and again or anything extra. That is the magic of An Academy. Just join An Academy without thinking too much.
Hi guys, up to now what we have seen is, we have seen what kind of faults occur in a power system and how does it affect the stability of a system. So we saw faults are dangerous in two ways. First, how is it dangerous? Because it causes a heavy current to flow in the power system. Next is it that it affects the stability of the system due to which the system may lose synchronism. So faults have two effects. One is your fault current IF and other is your stability. Now, since faults are a very common occurrence, why? You must have seen in your nearby area that there is some power outage due to some fault that has occurred in your locality. So, if faults are such a common occurrence and it can damage the system, then there must be some means by which I can protect my system. Now, if such is the case, then we need to understand about the power system protection. Now, power system protection primarily deals with protection against the faults. So, protection system has three functions. First of all, it has to detect between normal and abnormal condition. Now, what is meant by normal and abnormal means when the system is normally operating, then heavy current may be due to extra load on the system. But if there is a fault, then a very high current flows. So, power system protection should be designed in such a way that it is able to discriminate which condition is normal and which is abnormal. Okay, let me give another example. In case of machines, we study about the magnetizing inrush current. Now, magnetizing inrush current, we studied that it is very high as compared to the full load current, but it persists for a shorter duration. Similarly, fault current is very high. Now, protection system must be able to distinguish between these two currents because inrush current is not a faulty current, it is normally occurring current. It will occur whenever the transformer is switched on. There is no means by which we can avoid magnetizing inrush current. So, any protection system must be designed in such a way that it does not operate for inrush current, but it must operate in case of a fault current. Okay. So, first step towards protection is to identify the abnormal condition. Next is it must identify location of fault. Okay, wherever the fault is occurring. Now suppose the fault is occurring in my locality. Then the protection system should not disconnect the generator itself. Rather, it must disconnect my locality from the power system. Otherwise, if it disconnects the generator itself, then the other colonies or other localities will also suffer from power outage. There will be power cut in those areas also, which is undesirable. Since the fault has occurred near my location, only the electricity or the power supply in my location should be turned off. So, we need to clearly locate the fault, otherwise other equipments or other parts of the power system will also cease to receive power from the generator. So, we need to identify where the fault has occurred. And the last step will be isolate the faulty part. Okay. Wherever the fault has occurred, we need to disconnect that part or that component from the system so that rest of the system remains as it is. The thing with faults is they spread very fast. Okay, they will spread through the system very fastly. That means the fault current will spread throughout the entire system. Hence, it can damage other components of the system as well. So, we need to isolate the faulty part as soon as possible so that other devices or equipments that are connected in the system remain protected and remain as it is. Mostly the fault that we study are concerned with the transmission lines. Okay. Now, why only transmission line? The thing is that transmission lines always have bare conductor which are connected or which are spread in the atmosphere or which are spread in the environment. Okay. They are exposed to the environment. They are exposed to the natural surroundings. Whereas, in case of machines like generators and transformers, the conductors are usually shielded inside the outer covering of the machine. That is why chances of fault are very less. But in transmission line, a tree branch can fall, the transmission line may break down. In the event of a storm, the transmission line may break. So, there are various kind of fault or various reasons for the fault occurrence. So, most of the faults that occur are concerned with the transmission line. Now, what are the parts of a protection system? So, as we see from the functionality, the first function is to identify between the normal and the abnormal condition. Now this part, these two steps, location of the fault and normal and abnormal, are done by relays, also called as protective relays. Why? Because in general term, relay is nothing but an electromechanical switch. What is meant by electromechanical switch? That is, for an electrical signal, it will produce a mechanical output just like the motor. And protective relay means the relays which have higher ratings and are used for protection in a power system. Okay, it does not have very high rating, but yes, usually it will have a higher rating as compared to the normal relays. And the last part, that is isolating the faulty part or disconnecting the faulty part, is done by circuit breaker. So this unit will mainly deal with the study of relays and the circuit breakers. Okay. Now, as I told you earlier, since relay has to detect the abnormal condition, it will generally operate at the minimum fault current, because it must be able to identify if the current is greater than the threshold current. Okay. Then circuit breaker must be designed on the basis of maximum fault current, because it has to isolate the faulty part, and if it isolates the faulty part, then it can isolate the faulty part in the event of the most dangerous fault. Means if it can protect the system against the most dangerous type of fault, then it can protect against the lesser severe type of fault. Okay. So circuit breaker will always be concerned with the maximum fault current. That is the case for a triple LG fault or a symmetrical fault, and thus relays will be designed on the basis of least severe fault or the line to ground fault. Okay. And based on the time, faults are divided into two categories. One is your transient, other is your sustained. Now, as I told you, transient fault, it is something like inrush current, which persists only for a short duration. Sustained fault is which exists for a longer duration. So obviously sustained faults are more dangerous as compared to transient, because they will exist for a long duration in the system. Now let us study about what kind of various switches are there in a power system which help us in protecting the power system. The first type of switch is called as fuse. Now, how we represent a fuse? If these are two terminals, fuse is represented something like this. Okay. Now, the thing with the fuse is, whenever high current will flow through it, let us say the current is I, then power in the fuse will be I square R, where R is the resistance of fuse, and the heat produced will be I square R into T. Now, due to the heat being produced in the fuse, the temperature of fuse will keep on rising. As the temperature increases and it goes beyond the melting point of fuse, the fuse will melt down, and hence it will disconnect these 2 points from the system. Okay. So its principle is based on the amount of heat produced in the fuse. Now heat produced is I square R into T. This must be greater than thermal limit, so that the fuse will melt down. Thermal limit is the amount of heat required to melt the fuse. Okay. We usually understand the thermal limit in terms of melting point, but here we are understanding in terms of the energy that is required to melt the fuse. So whenever Q is greater than thermal limit, the fuse will operate. Okay. Now there are two things: how to design the cross sectional area and the length of fuse. Okay. Now cross sectional area, it is designed on the basis of resistance, because if you increase resistance, Q increases, so it will exceed the thermal limit easily. But if you decrease the resistance, then Q decreases, and hence it will take more time to exceed the thermal limit, because the threshold condition is that Q is equal to thermal limit. Okay. Now if we keep the material constant, then thermal limit will be constant, because melting point is material dependent. Now I square R into T is equal to thermal limit. That means T is inversely proportional to resistance. T is the time in which the fuse will operate. So if you increase the resistance, operating time decreases. So it operates faster. Now we have to choose the operating time suitably, because the fuse must neither operate too fast or too slow. Because if it operates too fast, then there is a chance that it may operate for a transient type of fault, that is existing for a shorter duration. And usually the fuse meltdown is kind of an undesirable condition. Why? Because this damage is permanent. Once the fuse is melted down, you have to replace the entire fuse. So it must operate only for dangerous faults or only for sustained faults. For faults occurring for a shorter duration, it must not melt down. So lesser operating time or faster operation is not too much desirable in case of a fuse. Okay. So area of cross section is always decided on the basis of resistance. Next term is how to decide the length. The thing is, when the fuse will melt down, what will happen? There will be open circuit in the system like this. Now open circuit will have certain voltage across it, and if L is the length, then electric field will be equal to V by L. Now if this electric field is greater than dielectric strength, then what will happen? Then the air between these two terminals will ionize, and if air ionizes, it will become conducting, so current will flow between the two terminals, and hence the purpose of the fuse will be lost, because the basic purpose was to disconnect the 2 points. Now if the current is flowing through the air between the 2 points, then these 2 points are still connected together. Hence we have to take care the length is decided on the basis of voltage rating. So length is based on voltage rating, and area is based on current rating. Okay, how much current will flow through the fuse. Now depends what is the material. Usually the materials that we use are aluminium, tin, copper, silver. These 4 are the materials that are usually used for constructing a fuse. Now as I told you, fuse meltdown is not too much desirable because damage is permanent. Hence it is used as a backup protection. Now what is meant by backup protection? The thing is, like in any sport like football, cricket or any sport, we have some substitute fielders or substitute players. What happens whenever any player gets injured, we have to replace that player with another player so that it can continue to play. Similarly, in case of protection system, the thing is, if your protection system gets damaged, then how will you protect the power system? I am telling that protection system itself gets damaged, not the power system. So mind it, I am telling that if the protection system gets damaged, then the power system will be unprotected. So we need to have a backup protection in place so that even if the protection system fails to protect the system, the other protection can work out and it can protect my power system. Okay. So that is called as backup protection. Now why fuse is being used as a backup protection, not as a primary? The thing is, primary protection operates first. If primary protection operates first and if the fuse operates first, then it will get damaged. You will have to replace it. So it is better that you use something else for primary protection, and if that does not work out, then your last resort should be fuse. If nothing works, then fuse must melt down to disconnect the faulty part. But if other things can work properly, then there is no need to melt the fuse. That is why it is always used as a backup protection. Now the thing is, obviously primary protection operates first, so T primary must be greater than T backup, where T represents the operating time. That is the time that it takes to open the circuit. Now if the T primary will be less than T backup, it must operate first. Since operating time of your backup protection must be high, and we know how to decide operating time. I square RT is equal to thermal limit. That means operating time is directly proportional to thermal limit. So thermal limit of the fuse must be high so that operating time is high and it can be used as a backup protection. Now we define something called as a fusing factor. FF means fusing factor, not the form factor. It represents minimum fusing current divided by I rated fuse. Okay. Now what is meant by minimum fusing current? Remember, it is not the minimum fault current, it is the minimum fusing current. Minimum fusing current is the minimum current at which the fuse will operate. Now as I told you, the thing is, whenever I square RT is greater than thermal limit, the fuse will operate. Now no matter what is the current, there will be some heat generated and it will keep on accumulating and increasing the temperature of the fuse. So at some point or the other, it must exceed the thermal limit to break the circuit or to melt the fuse. Then how come there is certain current below which the fuse will not operate? Are you getting my point? The thing is, as the heat accumulates, the temperature will go on increasing. So even after 1 day, 2 days, 4 days, somewhere it will happen that the heat generated is greater than your thermal limit. Then how come there is a certain current below which the fuse cannot operate? The reason is that whenever heat is being generated in the fuse, at the same time it is getting dissipated towards the atmosphere. Now, if heat generated is less than or equal to heat dissipated, then the temperature will not increase. Okay, sorry, temperature cannot increase. If temperature does not increase, then the fuse cannot melt down. So that means the minimum fusing current depends on the rate at which heat is being dissipated from the system. Now, if we see this equation, I square RT is equal to thermal limit, that means time is inversely proportional to I square. Now usually when we plot the characteristics, we plot against current, T operating versus current. Now as I told you, there is a minimum current below which fuse does not operate. This is your minimum fusing current. Okay, and the characteristics will be hyperbolic. As evident from this equation, characteristics will always be inverse or hyperbolic. So this is the purpose of fuse. It is used as a backup protection and it always operates whenever the heat generated is greater than the thermal limit of the fuse. Next type of switch is your load interrupter. Now what happens is, whenever there is overloading in the system, then also there will be high current flowing. That is also an undesirable condition. So what does load interrupter do? It will disconnect the additional load in the system so that the load is less than the rated value. Because load must never exceed the rated value, otherwise there will be high current and damage to the system. So it is used for load shredding, okay, to shred the load, or it is also called as load curtailment, so that there is no overloading in the system. Now at what point it will operate? It will operate under full load condition. Means overloading will always be greater than full load. So whenever you are disconnecting a load, that means we are trying to bring the loading of the system within or equal to full load. So that means load interrupter will operate at a full load condition, because whenever the load will go beyond full load, it will disconnect the additional load. Okay, whereas the fuse will operate under abnormal condition, where that means whenever you will have a current much higher than the rated current, but it will operate at a rated current. Understood? Fuse will operate whenever there are abnormal condition, whereas load interrupter will operate whenever the load goes beyond the rated value. Similarly, there is a thing called line isolator. Now as the name suggests, it will isolate the transmission line. It is connected in series with the load interrupter as shown here. Now what will happen is, suppose in area 2 load increases. So here will be a high current, I will increase. Now what will happen is that this load interrupter operates. If it operates, then what will happen? Then it will disconnect like this. Now the thing is, distance between these 2 points is less, due to which electric field, which is equal to V by L, since in open circuit there will be some voltage V, will be high, and if it is greater than the dielectric strength G, then what will happen? The air will ionize and it will start conducting. That means we need to increase this length or this separation between the contacts, or we call it as clearing. The clearing between the two contacts must be increased so that the electric field reduces. That is the purpose of this line isolator. Okay, what will happen? After load interrupter operates, this line isolator will also operate, due to which distance between the contacts increases and electric field reduces. So when does it operate? After the load interrupter operates. And after the load interrupter operates, what will be the current in the system? It will be 0. So that means the line isolator will operate at a 0 current, or it operates under no load condition. Okay. So far we have seen 3 types of switches: fuse, line isolator and load interrupter. Fuse operates under abnormal condition, then load interrupter operates at full load condition, then line isolator operates at no load condition. So what does it mean is, there are 3 types of switches which run under specific condition. But I want to have a more general type of switch which can operate under any condition at my command. Because here I am not controlling any type of switch. One is operating under abnormal condition by itself, one is operating at full load condition by itself, other is operating at no load condition. But I want control. That is, I must be able to operate the switch though abnormal conditions are there, full load or no load is there. I must be able to control it. Such a switch is called as your circuit breaker. So circuit breaker is a switch which can operate under abnormal as well as normal conditions. Okay. So as I have shown here, there is one schematic of the circuit breaker that I have shown here. What happens is, see, this is my circuit breaker, this is my relay. Here I have shown how both things coordinate. Now what happens is, suppose there is a heavy current. Okay, here the current flowing I is high. Do not think that it is disconnected. Right now this plate is in this position. Okay. Now when high current is there, the current transformer will step down the current. So this current will become, by I ratio, it will become I. Now this I current will create a magnetic field inside this coil, which will be equal to mu naught Ni. Now this magnetic field will attract this shaft or spindle. It will attract this. So this will be forced to be pulling down. But this spring will try to stop it. Okay. So there are 2 forces. One is your operating force, other is your restraining force. This is provided by the spring. This is provided by a relay operating coil. Whenever operating force will be greater than restraining force, this shaft will be pulled down. Now as it is pulled down, what will happen? It will get connected here, due to which this circuit becomes closed. Now current will start to flow. Current will flow in this coil, due to which this coil experiences a magnetic field, let us say mu naught N I dash, due to which this contact will be pulled away from these 2 terminals. Hence if you see here, in circuit breaker we have 2 contacts. This one is called as fixed contact, other one is called as your moving contact. Okay. So that is how the relay and the circuit breaker coordinate. So what happened? Whenever high current is there, circuit breaker will step it down and the relay will detect that high current and will cause the terminals, or will cause the contacts of the circuit breaker to separate. Okay. It is called as sending a trip signal. See, I was telling you that relay is an electromechanical switch. So here what happened? We sent a current through the relay and it produced a mechanical motion. Hence it is a electromechanical switch. Now the mechanical motion that it produces is also called as trip signal. Okay. So the thing is that relay will send a trip signal to the circuit breaker, due to which the contacts of the circuit breaker will separate. Okay. Now the transformer that is used, current transformer, this one, this is your protective current transformer. Why? Because this current transformer is used for protection. Now current transformers are also of the two types. One that you will study in measurement called as instrument transformer. Here it is called as protective transformer. Now what is the essential difference between the two type of transformer? The thing is that what I want is, I want that operating force must be directly proportional to current. Why? Because if operating force is directly proportional to current, then acceleration is directly proportional to current, then operating time is inversely proportional to current. So what happens is, higher the current, lesser will be the time. Okay. So that means a higher current will exist only for a shorter duration in my circuit. Okay. So that is why I want that the time should be inversely proportional to current. Now suppose in event of a high current, the instrument transformer saturates. If it saturates, the magnetic field that it produces will become constant, due to which force will become constant, due to which acceleration will become constant, and time will also become constant. Now if time becomes constant, then what happens is, it will not be able to operate faster at a lower value of current. And if it does not operate faster than at a higher value of current, and if it does not operate fast at a high current, then what will happen? The high current will persist for a longer duration and it will be able to damage the system. Hence we want higher the current, lesser should be the time of operation. So the transformer must never saturate. That is why in your protective current transformer, the saturation current is usually 20 to 30 times full load current. Whereas in measurement type of transformer or instrument transformer, your saturation does not occur. Why? Because you will never exceed the rated current. Even if you exceed, how much you will go? 2 times, 3 times, but not 20 to 30 times. Hence their saturation current is 2 to 3 times full load current. Okay. Because in a measurement system, there will not be abnormal characteristics. Hence your saturation current is less. So protective current transformer has a higher saturation current, whereas your protection current transformer has a lower saturation current. Now current transformer characteristics are something like this. Okay. Now this point here is called as your ankle point. This point is called as your knee point. Between ankle point and knee point, your characteristics are approximately linear. Now linear means that your B is proportional to H. Okay, or we can say operating force is directly proportional to current. Now due to this, I want to always operate in the linear region. So that means the normal operating point should be here, that is IFL. So that whenever the fault occurs, usually fault current is 10 pu, 15 pu, or we can say fault current is 10 to 15 times IFL. So if you go at 10 to 15 times, you will land in the linear region. Okay. So normally we operate below the ankle point or at the ankle point, so that as soon as I get a fault or as soon as the current becomes high, I will end up in the linear region, so that operating force is proportional to the current. Okay. So that is how the circuit breaker must be, that is how the current transformer must be designed. And in your relay, operating force is greater than restraining force for your trip signal. And if operating force is less than trip signal, then the relay will not operate. It is called as block. So relay blocks when operating force is less, and it operates when operating force is high. Okay. So that is how your circuit breaker operates. So let me summarize what we covered in this lecture. So first we saw the basics of protection system. What are the components of protection system? Then we saw what is a fuse. We saw it is a backup protection. It operates whenever I square RT is greater than thermal limit. Then we saw what is a load interrupter. and then we saw what is a line isolator. We saw both work together. Load interrupter will disconnect the additional load, and then line isolator will increase the clearing. And last we saw circuit breaker. We saw that it operates alongside a relay. Whenever the relay will send a trip signal in case of abnormal conditions, then the circuit breaker will operate. Okay. The relay will close the contacts of the circuit breaker, due to which circuit breaker coil energizes, and it will separate the contacts, that is the moving contact and the fixed contact. In the next lecture we will see what happens when the circuit breaker plates separate and how to avoid that. Okay, what will happen when the circuit breaker plates will separate, that we will see, and why we have to use special measures to avoid such a condition, that we will cover in the next lecture.
So my friend, if you want to join Unacademy, if you liked the lecture, if you like the content that you have just watched, and you have decided that Unacademy is the right place for you, and you want to learn with me, you want to learn from me, then don't hesitate, because that is where we are conducting free classes every day that will boost your GATE rank. So if you decide to take subscription, click on GATE and ESE, click on get subscription. After this, you can choose the plan that you want to opt for. The final year and dropper can take 1 year plan. Second and the third year can take 2 year plan. But don't forget to use the code Ankit ESE. This will give you 10% off, as well as it will bring you under my guidance. And as you can see, the prices are really affordable, my friend. It is much less than any other institute can offer you. And that is why I keep repeating, Unacademy is not an academy. It is a revolution. It is a feeling. You can make the payment by credit, debit card, EMI, net banking. Also, EMI is available on debit card, but for HDFC debit card and Bajaj Finserv debit card. So if you are from a weak financial background, you can pay the amount in installments, but only use the code Ankit ESE. And my friend, these are some videos where I have told how to study, how to get the best rank in GATE, and these videos will really help you in cracking GATE. So make sure that you watch each and every one of them. And my friend, these are our other channels, like for mechanical we have, for civil also we have, for computer science we have for SSC, JEE, all branches, electrical, mechanical, civil. And on this channel we have the previous year question video solution, that too free of cost. And many more channels will be coming very soon for you guys. So be a part of our YouTube family, and you can take the benefit of all the free content that we are bringing.